Lieutenant Eliza Morgan's head throbbed as consciousness returned. The sterile metallic smell hit her first, followed by the biting cold against her skin. Her eyes fluttered open to blinding white light and gleaming metal surfaces. She tried to move, but found herself strapped to a hard table, limbs secured by strange, pulsing restraints. "Subject appears to be regaining consciousness," came a voice from somewhere behind her. The speech had an odd cadence, the words somehow both flat and melodic at once. "Proceed with preliminary scans before extraction protocol." Eliza strained against her restraints, military training kicking in despite the fog clouding her mind. The last thing she remembered was the routine patrol outside the Mars colony perimeter. She'd been checking oxygen levels in her suit when a shadow had fallen across the red dust. "Where am I?" she demanded, her voice raspy. "Release me immediately." A face leaned over her, if you could call it a face. Two large, faceted eyes reflected her own terrified expression back at her. Its skin was a pale blue-gray, smooth as polished stone, with no visible nose and only the suggestion of a mouth. Long, six-fingered hands adjusted something above her head. "Remarkable vocal capabilities," it said, not addressing her but speaking to someone else in the room. The Earth specimens continued to display higher cognitive functions than anticipated. Another alien moved into view. This one had similar features but with subtle differences, its skin darker, more mottled. "Be cautious, Vex. This one came from their military outpost. Previous military specimens have proven problematic." Eliza's mind raced. They'd taken others? Other soldiers from the Mars Colony Defense Force? "What have you done with my team?" she demanded. The aliens, Vex and the other, ignored her completely, moving around the laboratory with practiced efficiency. Various instruments hummed and beeped around her. Through her peripheral vision, Eliza could make out other tables, other shapes beneath sterile coverings. Were they her companions or previous specimens? "Begin tissue extraction sequence," said the darker alien. "We require uncontaminated samples from major organs." Cold terror washed over Eliza. They were going to cut her open, dissect her like a lab animal. With renewed desperation, she strained against her restraints. The aliens had clearly underestimated human strength, especially the strength of a woman who'd trained in Mars's lower gravity. She felt the restraint on her right wrist give slightly. "Remarkable resilience," noted Vex dispassionately. "Increase sedation levels before proceeding." A mechanical arm descended from above, bearing a syringe filled with luminescent blue liquid. Eliza bucked wildly, her partially freed hand slipping further from its restraint. The needle hovered closer. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," she warned, her voice deadly calm despite her hammering heart. Vex tilted his head, finally acknowledging her directly. "Fascinating. The specimen believes it can negotiate." With a final, tremendous effort, Eliza wrenched her right hand free and grabbed the descending mechanical arm. With strength born of terror and rage, she redirected it toward the nearest alien. The needle plunged into Vex's shoulder before he could react. The alien stumbled backward, shock evident even on its alien features. The blue liquid emptied into its body. Within seconds, Vex collapsed to the floor, limbs twitching. The second alien rushed toward a panel on the wall, likely an alarm. Eliza tore at her remaining restraints, leveraging her free hand to snap the material holding her left arm. With both hands free, she quickly released her legs. As she rolled off the table, the second alien had reached the panel. Eliza grabbed the nearest object, a tray of gleaming instruments, and hurled it with perfect accuracy. The alien crumpled beneath the impact. Breathing hard, Eliza stood in the center of the lab, her military training taking over as she assessed her situation. She was captured, alone, and surrounded by unknown hostile entities on what was likely a spacecraft. "First step, secure the immediate area," she muttered to herself. "Second step, find any survivors. Third step," she glanced around at the advanced technology surrounding her. "Learn enough about these bastards to get us all home, and make sure they never take another human again." Eliza moved quickly through the lab, checking the other tables. Her heart sank as she discovered the bodies of her team members, or what remained of them. Captain Reynolds, Specialists Tran and Novak, all dissected, their organs meticulously removed and stored in transparent containers. Only Private Garza was missing. I'm going to make them pay, she whispered, closing Novak's vacant eyes. A soft moan from across the lab drew her attention. In a transparent containment unit, she found Private Maya Garza, unconscious but alive. The young soldier was hooked to various monitoring devices, but appeared unharmed. Eliza studied the control panel, recognizing patterns in the alien script from her xenolinguistics training. She pressed what she hoped was the release sequence. The containment field shimmered and disappeared. Garza, wake up, Eliza whispered, checking the private's pulse. We need to move. Garza's eyes fluttered open. Lieutenant? She murmured. I saw them take you. They had already... The others... I know, Eliza said grimly. But we're not joining them. Come on. As Garza gained her bearings, Eliza explored the lab. She found their environment suits, damaged but salvageable, along with some of their equipment. Their weapons were missing, but she located something that resembled a weapon among the aliens' tools. A rod-like device that emitted energy when she experimentally pressed its activation pad. What's the plan, Lieutenant? Garza asked, now fully alert and helping to gather useful items. First, we need to understand what we're dealing with, Eliza said. These aliens are studying us, but they're not infallible. They made the mistake of thinking humans are just specimens. She approached one of the computer terminals, running her fingers over the strange interface. The screen flickered to life, displaying information in the alien's angular script. Can you read that? Garza asked skeptically. Not exactly, but I can make educated guesses. Eliza had spent 2 years in xenolinguistics before switching to tactical operations. These symbols resemble mathematical sequences, universal concepts. She navigated through screens, piecing together information. They call themselves the Vral. This appears to be a research vessel. They've been collecting specimens from multiple species, not just humans. Eliza's fingers froze over the interface as new information filled the screen. They've been observing Earth for decades, taking people from remote locations. But Mars Colony is their first attempt at military targets. A schematic appeared, showing what looked like a massive station. This ship is just a collection vessel. It periodically returns to that, their main research facility. Garza peered at the screen. Are there more humans there? Possibly. Eliza navigated further. They're studying us to determine if we're a threat. They've conquered other worlds by understanding and exploiting biological weaknesses. An alarm blared suddenly, bathing the room in pulsing red light. Eliza cursed. They've discovered their scientists are down. We need to move. Where to? Garza asked, gripping the makeshift weapon Eliza had given her. The ship controls. If this is just a collection vessel, it may have a small crew. We might be able to take control. They moved to the lab entrance. The door slid open automatically, revealing a curved corridor with the same sterile aesthetic as the lab. Strange symbols marked various doors. Stay close, Eliza ordered, leading the way with her energy rod raised. They hadn't gone far when they encountered their first conscious Viral. The alien froze in shock at the sight of the escaped humans. Before it could react, Eliza fired the energy rod. The alien collapsed, its body convulsing before going still. These aren't soldiers, Eliza realized aloud. They're scientists, researchers. They don't expect resistance. Their mistake, Garza said grimly. They continued through the corridors, avoiding several Viral by ducking into side rooms. In one room, they discovered what appeared to be specimen storage, containers filled with preserved organs and tissues from various species. In another, they found equipment that seemed designed for long-term observation of living subjects. They were planning to keep some of us alive, Eliza said, examining a row of empty containment units. For behavioral studies. A schematic on the wall caught her attention, a detailed map of the vessel. There, she pointed. The control center is 2 levels up. As they prepared to leave, the ship lurched suddenly, throwing them against the wall. What was that? Garza asked, steadying herself. Eliza's expression darkened. I think we're docking. If this is a collection vessel returning to the main station, we're about to have a lot more company, Garza finished. Change of plans, Eliza decided. We need to find a communication array. Contact Mars colony before they send more teams to be captured. And then? Eliza's gaze hardened as she looked at the specimens around them. The evidence of countless atrocities committed in the name of research. Then we make sure no one else ends up in these containers. The ship shuddered again as docking procedures continued. Eliza and Garza moved quickly through the corridors, following the schematic they'd memorized. They encountered 2 more Virel, dispatching them efficiently with their energy weapons. The communication array should be through here, Eliza whispered as they approached a sealed doorway. Unlike the others, this one required access credentials. Garza examined the panel. We could try using one of their hands for biometric access. Too risky to drag a body here, Eliza countered. She studied the panel carefully, then removed a tool from her makeshift toolkit, a small device she'd taken from the lab. This might work. She pressed the device against the panel. It emitted a soft pulse, and the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was a compact room filled with advanced technology. Curved screens displayed star charts and communication frequencies. In the center stood a holographic projection of what appeared to be the main research station, their destination. Impressive, Garza murmured, examining the controls. Focus, Eliza reminded her. We need to send a warning to Mars colony. She approached what appeared to be the main communication terminal. The interface was complex but followed logical patterns she could decipher. After several tense minutes, she managed to locate human communication frequencies. I think I can send a burst transmission, she said. It won't give us two-way communication, but it might deliver a warning. As Eliza worked, Garza kept watch at the door. Lieutenant, she said suddenly, I'm seeing movement on the internal sensors. Multiple Viral heading this way. Almost there, Eliza replied, fingers flying over the alien interface. She recorded a quick message. Mars Colony Defense Force. This is Lieutenant Morgan. Hostile alien species abducting humans for experimentation. Coordinates attached. Do not send rescue. Repeat, do not attempt rescue. Morgan out. She attached the ship's current coordinates and sent the burst transmission just as the door alarm sounded. They're trying to override the lock, Garza warned. Eliza scanned the room. We need a different way out. Her eyes fell on a maintenance hatch in the floor. There! They pried open the hatch, revealing a network of maintenance tunnels. Without hesitation, they dropped down, pulling the hatch closed above them just as the main door slid open. The tunnels were cramped and dimly lit by bioluminescent strips along the walls. They crawled quickly, putting distance between themselves and their pursuers. Where are we going? Garza whispered. The docking bay, Eliza replied. If we're connecting to their main station, we might find a way to either escape or cause significant damage. They emerged from the tunnels into a massive chamber. The docking bay stretched before them, bustling with viral activity. Through a massive viewport, they could see the research station, a sprawling structure that dwarfed their collection vessel. There must be thousands of them, Garza breathed. Eliza's mind raced, assessing their options. Look there, she pointed, to a smaller vessel in the docking bay. That might be a scout ship, if we can reach it. Before they could move, a group of Viral entered the maintenance area behind them. These looked different, larger, with armored exoskeletons. Security forces. Run, Eliza commanded, firing her energy weapon at the nearest fuel canister. The resulting explosion created chaos in the docking bay. They sprinted across the open space, dodging confused Viral workers. Energy blasts from the security forces scorched the floor around them. Garza took a glancing hit to her leg and stumbled. Eliza grabbed her arm, half dragging her toward the scout ship. Almost there! They reached the ship's entry ramp just as more security forces converged on their position. Eliza fired repeatedly, keeping them at bay while Garza limped aboard. Inside the scout ship, controls glowed with soft blue light. Eliza sealed the entry hatch and rushed to what appeared to be the pilot's station. Can you fly this thing? Garza asked, applying pressure to her wounded leg. We're about to find out, Eliza replied grimly, studying the controls. They followed, similar patterns to the communication array. She pressed what she hoped was the ignition sequence. The ship hummed to life around them. Outside, Viral security forces were attempting to breach the hatch. Eliza found the weapons controls and fired at the docking clamps holding the scout ship in place. The clamps shattered, and the ship lurched free. "Hold on," she called to Garza. As she engaged the thrusters, the scout ship shot forward, smashing through smaller vessels before bursting out of the docking bay into open space. Alarms blared behind them as the station's defenses activated. "They're launching pursuit craft," Garza warned, watching the sensors. Eliza's hands flew over the controls, pushing the scout ship to its limits. "I'm not trying to escape," she said, her voice steady with determination. "What do you mean?" Eliza adjusted their course, aiming directly for a specific section of the research station. "I studied their schematic. That section houses their main power core. If we hit it at full speed..." Understanding dawned on Garza's face. "It's a suicide run." "Not necessarily." Eliza pointed to what appeared to be escape pods. "If we set the ship on a collision course, we might have time to get to those." The station grew larger in their viewport as defensive fire streaked past them. Several shots connected, rocking the small vessel. "Set the course," Garza said, determination matching Eliza's. "I'll prep the escape pod." As Viral pursuit ships closed, in behind them, Eliza locked in their trajectory, directly toward the station's vulnerable power core. The ship's autopilot engaged, continuing its deadly course. They raced to the escape pod, sealing themselves inside just as another volley of defensive fire crippled the scout ship's engines. "Now or never," Eliza said, punching the launch sequence. The escape pod ejected, tumbling away from the doomed scout ship. Through the small viewport, they watched as their vessel, now trailing flames and debris, continued its fatal journey toward the heart of the alien research station. The escape pod tumbled through space, its stabilizers damaged during the chaotic launch. Through the small viewport, Eliza and Garza watched as their hijacked scout ship plowed into the Viral research station. The resulting explosion tore through the structure, chain reactions rippling outward as power systems overloaded. "Direct hit," Garza breathed, her face illuminated by the distant firestorm. Eliza gripped the manual controls, fighting to stabilize their trajectory. "Don't celebrate yet. We're not safe." The pod systems flickered as life support struggled to maintain optimal conditions. A quick assessment showed they had limited oxygen, no weapons, and minimal propulsion capability. "Where are we headed?" Garza asked, wincing as she shifted her injured leg. Eliza studied the navigation display. They were in an unfamiliar star system, far from Mars or Earth. "We need to find somewhere to land and regroup. There's a small moon orbiting that gas giant. Atmospheric readings suggest it might be habitable." Using what little fuel remained, Eliza adjusted their course toward the moon. As they approached, they could see it was largely covered in dense vegetation, with scattered bodies of water reflecting the light of the distant sun. "Looks like paradise compared to what we just left," Garza commented. Their entry into the moon's atmosphere was rough, the pod's heat shields barely holding as they plummeted toward the surface. Eliza fought with the controls, managing to slow their descent enough to avoid a catastrophic impact. They crashed through the upper canopy of towering tree-like growths before slamming into soggy ground. The pod's door had jammed during landing. Eliza kicked it repeatedly until it finally gave way, allowing them to stumble outside into an alien environment. The air was breathable but thick with unfamiliar scents. Massive fern-like plants surrounded them, and strange calls echoed through the dense vegetation. "At least we can breathe," Eliza said, helping Garza find a place to sit while she assessed their situation. "Any chance of rescue?" Garza asked, already knowing the answer. Eliza shook her head. "The transmission I sent to Mars Colony specifically warned them not to attempt rescue. Even if they wanted to, they have no way to reach us. We're on our own." They salvaged what they could from the escape pod: medical supplies, emergency rations, and a few tools. Eliza treated Garza's leg wound, relieved to find it wasn't as severe as it had first appeared. "We need shelter and a defensible position," Eliza said, military training kicking in. "Let's see what we're dealing with." They hadn't ventured far from the crash site when they discovered the first signs that they weren't alone. Strange structures rose through the canopy in the distance, not natural formations but clearly artificial. "Could be Viral," Garza suggested, tension evident in her voice. "I don't think so," Eliza replied, studying the organic flowing designs that contrasted sharply with the sterile angles of Viral architecture. They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The structures appeared to be dwellings, grown rather than built, seamlessly integrated with the surrounding vegetation. As they drew closer, movement caught their eye. Bipedal figures, taller and more slender than humans, with skin that shifted colors like a living chameleon. "More aliens," Garza whispered. Before they could retreat, they were surrounded. Dozens of the tall beings emerged from camouflaged positions, holding weapons that appeared to be grown rather than manufactured. Eliza slowly placed her energy weapon on the ground, motioning for Garza to do the same. "We come in peace," she said, knowing they couldn't understand, but hoping her tone conveyed their intentions. The tallest of the beings stepped forward, its skin shifting from forest green to a soft blue. It made a series of melodic sounds, then reached out and gently touched Eliza's forehead. A flood of images rushed through her mind. The being's homeworld destroyed, their escape, their settlement on this moon, and most surprisingly, their awareness of the Viral and their experimentation. When the contact ended, Eliza gasped. "They're telepathic, they showed me. They're refugees, like us. The Viral destroyed their civilization." The tall being, she somehow knew its name was Elos, gestured for them to follow. With few alternatives, they agreed. The alien settlement was a marvel of biological engineering. Structures were living entities, responsive to their inhabitants' needs. Luminescent plants provided light, while flowing water systems moved through the community in carefully designed patterns. In what appeared to be a central gathering place, Elos introduced them to the community's leaders. Through limited telepathic exchanges, Eliza learned that these beings, who called themselves the Lumen, had established a hidden sanctuary on this moon generations ago after fleeing Viral expansion. "They've been monitoring Viral activities," Eliza explained to Garza after another telepathic session. "They know what happened at the research station. They're grateful. So we accidentally avenged their civilization," Garza replied with grim satisfaction. Elos communicated again with Eliza, this time sharing more detailed information. When the contact ended, Eliza's expression was one of shock and hope. "The Viral outpost we destroyed wasn't their main base," she told Garza. "It was significant, but there are others. The Lumen have been gathering intelligence and technology, preparing to fight back. They've offered us sanctuary and a chance to join their resistance." Garza's eyes widened. "A resistance? Against an empire that spans multiple star systems? What chance do they have?" "More than you might think," Eliza replied. "They've been collecting allies, other species who've suffered under Viral experimentation, some with technologies far beyond human understanding." She looked around at the Lumen settlement, then back at Garza. "The war's not over. In fact, I think it's just beginning." Days turned into weeks as Eliza and Garza recovered from their ordeal and integrated into Lumen society. The telepathic aliens proved to be gentle hosts and dedicated teachers, helping the humans learn their language and culture. Elos had become their primary guide, its shifting skin patterns now familiar enough that Eliza could read basic emotions. Today, its skin rippled with shades of anticipation as it led them deeper into the settlement than they'd been before. "Where are we going?" Eliza asked, still finding spoken language necessary despite the Lumen's occasional telepathic communications. Elos responded with a melodic series of tones that Eliza now understood meant, "The archive awaits." They descended into what appeared to be a living structure extending underground. Bioluminescent organisms lit their path, brightening as they approached and dimming after they passed. The air grew cooler and filled with the scent of something like cinnamon and ozone. "I've never seen this part of the settlement," Garza commented, her leg now fully healed and allowing her to move without difficulty. "Few outsiders have," Eliza translated, as Elos communicated telepathically. "This is their most sacred place." They emerged into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Towering crystalline structures filled the space, each pulsing with gentle light from within. Between them moved Lumen caretakers, their skin shifting in patterns of deep reverence. "What is this place?" Garza whispered. Elos touched Eliza's forehead, sharing knowledge rather than simple communication. Images and concepts flooded her mind. The crystals were living data repositories, organic technology that stored the collective knowledge of dozens of civilizations destroyed by the Vral. It's a library, Eliza explained to Garza, her voice filled with wonder. But more than that. It's a preservation project. The Lumen aren't just refugees, they're archivists. They've spent generations collecting and preserving the knowledge, history, and cultural heritage of species the Viral have destroyed or subjugated. Elos guided them deeper into the archive, past crystals containing mathematical formulas, artistic achievements, and technological schematics from civilizations spanning the galaxy. Finally, they stopped before a crystal smaller than the others, its light dimmer. With solemn movements, Elos gestured toward the crystal, then to Eliza and Garza. Human knowledge, Eliza realized. They've been collecting information about Earth. Through another telepathic exchange, Eliza learned the disturbing truth. The Lumen had been aware of humanity for nearly a century, ever since the Viral first discovered Earth. They had collected what information they could, preparing to preserve human knowledge before the Viral could complete their study and determine whether to exploit or eliminate humanity. They thought we were doomed, Eliza told Garza. Like all the others, Garza's face hardened. We're not dead yet. Elos led them to another section of the archive, where several Lumen worked with what appeared to be Viral technology integrated with their own organic systems. Here, the telepathic exchange became more complex, with multiple Lumen sharing information simultaneously. When it ended, Eliza staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the influx of knowledge. What did they show you? Garza asked, steadying her. Everything, Eliza replied. Viral weaknesses, vulnerabilities in their technology, their command structure, their biology. She took a deep breath. And they showed me why they brought us here. The Resistance needs something only we can provide. What could we possibly offer that these advanced species don't already have? The human capacity for warfare, Eliza said grimly. The Lumen and their allies are peaceful species. Even after generations of Viral oppression, they struggle with the concept of offensive action. They've gathered intelligence, developed technology, but lack the strategic thinking to use it effectively. Garza's expression shifted as understanding dawned. They want us to teach them how to fight. Not just teach, Eliza corrected. Lead. They want us to help plan and execute operations against Viral outposts. The implications were staggering. 2 human soldiers guiding an interspecies resistance against a galactic power. The concept would have seemed absurd weeks ago. Do we have a choice? Garza asked quietly. Elos, sensing their conversation, gently placed a slender hand on Eliza's shoulder. The telepathic message was simple but profound. All choices remain their own. We always have a choice, Eliza answered. But I know what mine is. The Viral took our team, dissected them like lab specimens. They've done the same to countless others. And eventually, they'll return to Earth in force. She looked around at the archive, the preserved memories of dead civilizations. I won't let humanity become just another crystal in this chamber. Garza nodded, a slow smile spreading across her face. Where do we start? Elos guided them to a circular platform at the archive's center. As they stepped onto it, the space around them transformed into a holographic display of the local star systems. Viral outposts glowed red, while potential ally species appeared as blue points of light. We start by building an army, Eliza said, her military mind already analyzing potential targets and strategies. And then, we take the fight to the Viral. As if responding to her words, the hologram zoomed in on a nearby Viral research facility. Smaller than the station they'd destroyed, but significant nonetheless. Elos communicated that it contained biological research similar to what Eliza and Garza had experienced firsthand. More prisoners, Garza said quietly. More specimens. Eliza's expression hardened as she studied the facility's defenses. Not for long. The alien vessel moved silently through space, its organic hull absorbing sensor scans rather than reflecting them. Inside the command center, Eliza stood beside Elos, studying the holographic display of their target. The Viral research facility. Designated Extraction Point 7. Final approach, she announced to the assembled team. Everyone clear on the objective? Around her stood a diverse group of resistance fighters, 4 lumen including Alos, 3 reptilian Krev warriors with natural armor plating, 2 insectoid Vesp technicians, and Garza, who had proven herself a natural leader among the non-human. Allies, get in, free the prisoners, gather intelligence, get out, Garza summarized. And if possible, make sure they can't use this facility again. In the 3 months since they'd joined the resistance, Eliza and Garza had transformed a loose coalition of refugee species into something resembling an effective fighting force. This mission would be their first major operation, a test of everything they'd built together. The Lumen ship, a marvel of biotechnology, initiated docking procedures with the Vral facility. Unlike conventional ships, it could extend pseudopods that secreted compounds capable of melting through hull material, creating an entrance while simultaneously sealing the breach to prevent atmospheric loss. Remember, Eliza cautioned as they prepared to board, Vral security forces will be better armed than the scientists we encountered before. They won't underestimate us this time. The team moved through the organic tunnel into the facility. The Vesp technicians immediately set to work on the nearest terminal, their multiple limbs moving with incredible speed as they bypassed Vral security protocols. We have facility schematics, one of them chittered. Prisoner containment is 2 levels down. Research archives are adjacent to the primary laboratory on this level. Eliza nodded. We split into 2 teams. Garza, take the Krev and 1 Vesp to free the prisoners. I'll lead the rest to secure the research data. They moved efficiently through the corridors, encountering minimal resistance initially. The Vral were clearly unprepared for such a direct incursion. The few security personnel they encountered were quickly neutralized by the Krev warriors, whose natural strength and armor made them formidable in close combat. Eliza's team reached the main laboratory without incident. Inside, they found several virile scientists working with what appeared to be biological samples. The aliens froze at the sight of armed intruders and visibly recoiled when they recognized Eliza as human. They remember us, Eliza said grimly. Good. The Vesp technicians surged forward, securing the cowering Vral while Eliza and the Lumen began downloading research data. The laboratory contained horrific evidence of ongoing experimentation. Tissue samples, genetic material, and detailed anatomical studies from at least a dozen different species. They're systematically cataloging physiological vulnerabilities, Eliza observed, reviewing the data as it transferred. Biological weapons research. Alos communicated telepathically, sharing images of similar facilities they'd observed from afar, a network of research stations all contributing to the Vral's methodical study of other species. We need to find their central database, Eliza decided. This isn't just about one facility anymore. Meanwhile, Garza's team had reached the containment level. The cells held prisoners from various species, some familiar to the resistance members, others completely unknown. Many showed signs of experimentation, missing limbs or organs, replaced with monitoring devices or experimental prosthetics. We need medical support for some of these, Garza reported via their communication devices. And we've got a complication. There are humans here. Eliza's blood ran cold. From Mars colony? No. They appear to be civilians, scientists. They say they were abducted from a research station in the Kuiper Belt, private sector. The Vral are expanding their collection efforts, Eliza realized. Prioritize getting everyone back to the ship. We're downloading their research now. As Garza's team began evacuating prisoners, alarm systems suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lighting bathed the corridors as security bulkheads began to close. We've been detected, the Vesp technician with Eliza reported. Central Security has initiated lockdown protocols. Eliza made a quick decision. Continue the download. We need that data. She turned to Elos and one of the Lumen. Help me find their central control room. We need to override the lockdown. They fought their way through increasingly heavy resistance, the Lumen using their organic weapons with surprising effectiveness. Eliza had learned that beneath their peaceful appearance, the Lumen harbored natural defenses. Their touch could deliver electrical charges powerful enough to incapacitate Viral security forces. They reached a sealed door marked with distinctive Viral glyphs that Eliza now recognized as indicating a command center. Using the energy weapon she'd modified with Vesp technology, she cut through the locking mechanism. Inside, they discovered not just a control center but something far more valuable. A Viral commander, instantly recognizable by its distinctive cranial structure and the metallic implants embedded in its blue-gray skin. The commander barked orders in the virile language, which Eliza now partially understood thanks to Lumen language education. It was calling for reinforcements from nearby Viral vessels. Without hesitation, Eliza fired her weapon, incapacitating the commander's guards. Elos moved with unexpected speed, pressing its hands against the commander's head before it could react. "What are you doing?" Eliza asked, securing the room. Elos didn't respond immediately, locked in what appeared to be an intense telepathic exchange with the unwilling Viral. When finally they separated, the commander collapsed, and Elos staggered backward, its skin fluctuating wildly between colors. "Information," Elos communicated telepathically to Eliza, the mental voice strained. "Extracted their operational plans. Earth is designated for full harvesting within one planetary cycle." The implications hit Eliza like a physical blow. They're planning to take more humans, not just individuals. Mass abductions. She accessed the control systems, disabling the lockdown and giving Garza's team clear passage to the ship. Then, with grim determination, she initiated what appeared to be the facility's self-destruct sequence. "We have what we came for," she said. "Let's make sure they can't continue their work here." As they retreated to the ship with the rescued prisoners and valuable data, Eliza maintained communication with Garza's team. "Status report," she demanded, as they navigated the corridors back to their extraction point. "Almost at the ship," Garza replied, her voice strained. 27 prisoners secured, including the human scientists. Some need immediate medical attention." Alarms continued to blare throughout the facility as the self-destruct sequence counted down. Eliza and her team rounded the final corner, to see their organic ship maintaining its connection to the viral structure. The sight of the vessel, so alien yet now their greatest hope, filled her with determination. "Final stretch," she encouraged her team as Viral security forces appeared behind them, energy weapons firing. The Lumen created a defensive formation, absorbing and redirecting the energy blasts while the others boarded. Eliza was the last to enter, providing covering fire until the ship's entrance sealed behind her. "Disengage and get us out of range," she ordered the Lumen pilot. The organic ship detached from the Viral facility, its hull closing the breach as smoothly as it had created it. They accelerated away just as the research station erupted in a series of explosions, the structure breaking apart in spectacular fashion. In the ship's medical bay, Garza supervised the treatment of the rescued prisoners. The human scientists, 3 men and 2 women, looked shell-shocked but relatively unharmed compared to some of the other species. "Lieutenant Morgan," one of the women said as Eliza entered. "Jana Thompson, Ceres Deep Space Research. We thought we were the only humans out here." "So did we, until recently," Eliza replied, examining the woman's credentials. "How long were you held?" 2 weeks? Maybe 3? It's hard to tell. They were cataloging us, taking samples." Thompson shuddered. "They seemed particularly interested in our nervous systems." The implications were disturbing. Eliza had seen enough of the Viral research to understand they were systematically studying potential biological weapons tailored to each species. "You're safe now," she assured them, though the words felt hollow given what she'd learned about the Viral's plans for Earth. As the ship entered FTL travel toward the Resistance base, Eliza joined Elos and the other Resistance leaders in the command center. The data they'd recovered was being analyzed by the VESP technicians, their multiple limbs working across several interfaces simultaneously. "What did you learn from the commander?" Eliza asked Elos, whose skin had finally settled into a steady blue-green pattern. The telepathic communication was clear, but troubling. The Viral operated on a cycle of study, harvesting, and either exploitation or elimination. Earth had been under observation for decades. The abductions, previously isolated incidents, were about to increase dramatically as they entered the final phase of assessment. "They're preparing a harvesting fleet," Eliza translated for the benefit of the others. "Multiple collection vessels, supported by military craft. They'll target population centers, taking thousands for their experiments." The gravity of the situation settled over the group. Their successful raid had freed a few dozen prisoners and destroyed one facility. But the Vral Empire spanned multiple star systems. They were facing an enemy with vastly superior numbers and technology. "We need to warn Earth," Garza said. "Even if we could, what would we tell them?" Eliza countered. "That aliens are coming? With what evidence? They'd think it was a hoax." "Then, what do we do?" one of the Krev warriors asked, its scaled skin shifting with agitation. Eliza studied the tactical display showing known Vral positions. "We hit them where it hurts." The commander's memories included the location of their central research archive, the hub where all their biological data is processed and stored. The resistance members exchanged glances. Such a target would be heavily defended. "We don't have the numbers for a direct assault," Garza pointed out. "No," Eliza agreed. "But we have something better." She gestured to the human scientists who were now entering the command center. "We have specialists who understand human biology better than the Vral ever could. And we have the element of surprise." She looked around at the assembled group, beings from across the galaxy united by their resistance to Vral domination. "They think of us as specimens, test subjects. They don't expect us to fight back, and certainly not to work together." The first time since their abduction, Eliza felt something like hope, not just for their own survival, but for Earth and all the other worlds threatened by the Vral's methodical conquest. "The Vral have spent generations studying how to destroy worlds," she said. "It's time we taught them how it feels to be the ones under the microscope." 6 months after their escape from the Vral research vessel, Eliza stood on the bridge of the Resistance flagship, a massive lumen vessel named, in their melodic language, Breaking Dawn. Around her, the combined fleet of the Resistance prepared for what might be their only chance to save Earth and countless other worlds from the Vral's harvesting campaign. "Final systems check complete," Garza reported, now serving as operations commander for the fleet. The past months had transformed her from a shell-shocked private into a confident leader. "All ships report ready." Their fleet was small but diverse, 17 vessels representing 7 different species. What they lacked in numbers, they made up for in determination and strategic advantage. The data stolen from multiple Vral facilities had provided them with crucial intelligence about Vral defenses, communications, and biological vulnerabilities. "The human scientists have completed the final modifications to the bioweapon," Elos communicated telepathically, its skin shimmering with anticipation. "It is ready for deployment." The bioweapon wasn't designed to kill. Working with the human scientists rescued from the research facility, they had engineered a neurological agent specifically targeting the Vral nervous system. It would temporarily disable their higher cognitive functions without causing permanent damage. A humane approach that had taken considerable effort to convince some of the more vengeful resistance members to accept. "Begin approach sequence," Eliza ordered. "Stealth systems at maximum." The fleet moved toward their target, the Vral Central Research Archive, a massive station orbiting a nondescript red dwarf star. Intelligence indicated it contained the complete biological database the Vral had compiled across centuries of studying other species, along with their strategic plans for future harvests. "We're within sensor range," a VESP technician reported. "Detection countermeasures holding." The plan was complex but elegant. While the main fleet maintained a stealth approach, a smaller team including Eliza would infiltrate the archive using a captured Vral shuttle. Once inside, they would deploy the bioweapon through the station's air circulation system, incapacitating the Viral crew. The fleet would then move in to secure the station and extract the complete database, including the command codes for the harvesting fleet preparing to target Earth. "Docking sequence initiated," the pilot announced as their stolen shuttle approached the archive. "Authentication codes accepted." Eliza checked her equipment one final time. Beside her, the infiltration team, 2 Lumen including Elos, 1 Krev warrior, and 2 Vesp technicians, did the same. "Remember," she cautioned them, "speed is essential. Once we deploy the agent, we have approximately 20 minutes before their automated security systems detect the intrusion." The shuttle docked smoothly with the archive. As the airlock cycled, Eliza felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that preceded combat. But this was different from any mission she'd undertaken on Mars. The fate of humanity, perhaps the fate of all free species in this sector of the galaxy, rested on their success. They moved through the station with practiced efficiency, encountering only minimal resistance. The Vrel, overconfident in their technology and dominant position, had never imagined that their former specimens would bring the fight to them. They reached the central environmental control room without incident. The VESP technicians quickly bypassed the security protocols while the others stood guard. "Deploying bioagent," one of the VESPs announced, injecting the specialized compound into the station's air filtration system. The effect was almost immediate. Throughout the station, alarms began to sound as Viral personnel collapsed, their nervous systems temporarily overwhelmed by the precisely targeted agent. "Phase 1 complete," Eliza reported, via secure communication to the fleet. "Begin approach, and prepare for boarding." As the Resistance fleet moved toward the now vulnerable station, Eliza led her team toward the Archive's data core, the heart of the Viral biological research empire. The few Viral security forces they encountered were already succumbing to the bioagent, their movements uncoordinated and sluggish. The central data core was a massive chamber filled with crystalline storage structures, not unlike the Lumen's own archive, but cold and sterile rather than organic and living. Terminals surrounding the core provided access to the accumulated knowledge of countless conquered worlds. "Begin the download," Eliza ordered the VESP technicians. Every bit of data, their complete biological database, command protocols, fleet movements, everything. As the technicians worked, Elos moved among the incapacitated Viral scientists, using its telepathic abilities to extract additional information. The process was taxing. Eliza could see the strain in the Lumen's fluctuating skin patterns, but it provided vital intelligence that might not be stored in the computer systems. "The harvesting fleet," Elos communicated urgently. "It has already been dispatched. Earth has less than 2 planetary cycles before they arrive." Eliza's blood ran cold. "Can we intercept them?" Elos conveyed uncertainty. The fleet was substantial, far larger than their Resistance forces could hope to defeat in direct combat. "Data extraction at 60%, one of the VESPs reported. Encountering encrypted sections requiring additional processing. An alert sounded from their communications. "Lieutenant," Garza's voice came through, "we have multiple Viral vessels inbound. They must have detected the station's automated distress signal." "How many?" Eliza asked, already calculating their options. 3 capital ships, multiple support vessels. They outgun us significantly." Eliza made a quick decision. "Continue the download. Prepare the fleet for emergency jump procedures on my signal." She turned to the Krev warrior. "We need to access their command systems. If we can't defeat the harvesting fleet in battle, perhaps we can send them false orders." The Krev nodded, its scaled features set in grim determination. They fought their way to the command center, where most of the Viral officers lay incapacitated by the bioagent. Eliza accessed the command console using the authentication codes they'd extracted from previous raids. "I'm in their fleet command network," she reported, transmitting false return orders to the harvesting fleet. The console beeped in acknowledgement as the transmission was sent. Whether it would be obeyed remained to be seen, but it might buy them precious time. "Download complete," came the report from the data core. "We have everything. All teams, return to extraction points," Eliza ordered. "Fleet command, prepare for immediate departure." As they retreated toward their shuttle, the station shuddered under the impact of weapons fire. The Viral reinforcements had arrived and were engaging the Resistance fleet. "We need to hurry," the Krev warrior urged as they raced through corridors now filled with the sound of combat. They reached the shuttle bay to find their vessel damaged by the station's automated defenses. Emergency force fields contained the atmosphere, but the shuttle was clearly inoperable. "Alternative extraction required," Eliza reported to Fleet Command. "Bay 12 Alpha." "Acknowledged," Garza responded. "Dispatching rescue craft now." They secured the bay, fighting off the few Viral security forces who had managed to resist the bioagent's effects. Through the viewport, Eliza could see the battle raging outside. The Resistance fleet holding its own against superior numbers, but clearly outmatched in direct combat. A Lumen vessel broke through the Viral formation, sustaining heavy damage as it approached the station. It docked with their bay, its organic hull forming a secure seal. "Everyone aboard," Eliza ordered, providing covering fire as her team entered. The rescue vessel. Once aboard, they wasted no time. "We have what we came for," she told the Lumen pilot. "Signal the fleet to execute emergency jump protocols." The rescue vessel detached from the station, joining the retreating resistance fleet. Space around them distorted as their ships activated the FTL drives, escaping just as the viral reinforcements moved to encircle them. In the aftermath, gathered once more at the Lumen Sanctuary Moon, the resistance leaders assessed their accomplishment. The complete viral biological database had been secured, along with strategic information that would prove invaluable in their ongoing struggle. The false orders appear to have been received by the harvesting fleet, Garza reported. Their approach to Earth has been delayed but not cancelled. Intelligence suggests we have perhaps 3 additional months before they resume course. That gives us time to prepare, Eliza said, addressing the assembled resistance leaders. With the data we've acquired, we can develop countermeasures against their weapons systems, predict their tactical movements, and potentially even devise methods to disrupt their command structure. The human scientists had already begun analyzing the viral biological data, discovering weaknesses that could be exploited without resorting to lethal force. Meanwhile, the VESP technicians were decoding the viral fleet command protocols, which might allow them to intercept or misdirect future harvesting operations. Elos approached Eliza privately after the meeting, its skin pulsing with gentle colors, that she now recognized as representing hope mixed with concern. "You have transformed our resistance," it communicated telepathically. "Before you and Garza arrived, we preserved knowledge but lacked the will to act decisively. You have shown us another path." Eliza smiled, touched by the alien sentiment. "And you've given us hope when we thought we had none. This is just the beginning of what we can accomplish together." As she looked out over the sanctuary moon, watching members of different species working together toward a common goal, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From captive specimen to resistance leader, she had found purpose in the most unlikely of places. The Viral had captured her for dissection, seeing her as nothing more than biological material to be studied and catalogued. But they had failed to account for human resilience and the power that comes from uniting diverse strengths toward a common cause. "They thought they were studying us," she murmured to herself, watching a group of recently rescued prisoners, humans and aliens alike, receiving medical treatment from Lumen healers. "But we're the ones who learned the most important lesson." Garza joined her, following her gaze. "And what's that?" Eliza turned to her friend and comrade. "That the true strength of any species isn't in domination, but in cooperation. The viral collect and conquer. We connect and collaborate." Aboard the Breaking Dawn, the Resistance fleet was already preparing for their next mission. The intelligence they'd gathered would allow them to free more prisoners, disrupt more viral operations, and perhaps, eventually, end the threat permanently. The path ahead would be challenging, the odds still heavily against them. But as Eliza reviewed the tactical plans for defending Earth against the coming harvest, she felt something she hadn't experienced since that fateful day on Mars when her team was captured: confidence. She was no longer just fighting to survive. She was fighting to ensure that no species would ever again be treated as mere specimens for viral experimentation. The aliens had claimed her body for dissection, but in doing so, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have anticipated. A human determined to protect not just her own kind, but all who valued freedom among the stars. The lab that had once held her captive was now ash floating in space. In its place, a new force was rising, one that would show the Viral that the universe was not theirs to dissect and categorize. It belonged to all who called it home. And Eliza, Morgan intended to make sure they learned that lesson, no matter how long it took.